3rd and 8, Brady got it away and completed it. This is Malcolm Mitchell for the touchdown.
How's everyone doing today? My name is Coach Wilson and I'm here for episode 19 of Win Daily. What I talk about on this podcast is the business of sport, physical fitness, and winning in all facets of life. For all my YouTube people, before we proceed, make sure you hit that subscribe button below to catch on to our channel. We are on an 18-month journey right now, month 2 of this journey and this vision I have to becoming an American public figure. Without further ado, let's get this thing rolling. What my topic is today is the American dream. What is the American dream? Does it still exist? The landscape of America. How did we get here? And why do we feel as if this vision of this world of so much opportunity, why is it beginning to slip away? Before I do that, this episode is sponsored by Team Meals, healthy and nutritious meals delivered to your door. And we actually have a little brother of Team Meals called Peak Performance, which is going to be a vital partnership in HyperSpeed in creating the framework for this ecosystem that we are developing. In order to reap the benefits of Team Meals in some of these tasty meals, again, the Philly cheesesteak bowl is to die for, as well as the meatloaf. Go on the website, use promo code HyperSpeed. You're going to get 10% off of your meals. Might I add, there's going to be a lot of other cool deals and all sorts of benefits in being part of this community that we are developing. But back into it. The American dream. So, what is the American dream to me? Well, for one, I am the son of an immigrant. My mother was born in the Cape Verde Islands and came to the States when she was 4 years old. She had 2 older brothers. They were born there as well. And her father, who I believe my mom's parents' marriage was almost sort of fixed, and then they took their family out to the States to set off on their new life. And my grandfather worked in a factory for his whole career and was able to raise his family off of the factory work, where my grandmother was able to raise the kids and be a traditional housewife. Now, that hardworking blue-collar work ethic that my grandfather had paved the way for my mom to understand that in America, you can be whatever you want to be. My mother did not go to college. My mom found herself working for a very large insurance firm and developed quite a great professional career for herself. Again, with no college, really just hustling, starting in culinary and then advancing into the corporate office from Legal Seafoods, which was her job at the time, and then from Legal Seafoods corporate into insurance, and that was really what supported me and allowed me to come here today. Now, in retrospect, my dad was a public servant and working for the government, not just as a member of the U.S. military, but also as a police officer. And so these different concepts of serving the people, capitalizing on opportunity, and coming to America with the vision and bringing that vision to life, that's always seemed very realistic to me. One thing I've learned in wearing so many different hats in this society, from coach to teacher to writer to political canvasser to salesman, it's that if you entertain people and you're likable, or if you produce, America will be pretty good to you. Now, there are certain pockets of this country where there is a majority, whether that be a certain group of people or ideology that all the people share, in which if you are not a member of that group, you may be perceived to be an outsider and it may be difficult to fit in. However, again, if you produce and you're likable, you can find your way. Now, if you don't have an endeavor that you are chasing and you come from a small town, you don't have a peer group, or you don't have example of what success looks like, then it can become very difficult to find your way. I think that one thing that the American people have figured out is that the school system really doesn't teach you shit. doesn't teach you anything about our financial system. It doesn't really teach you about the value of acquiring skills, and skills in which you can empower yourself to make money off of what it is that you do or build a scalable business. Now, why that matters is because what it appears as if our school system does is it develops workers and not thinkers. And so with that, it becomes very difficult for people to find their way. Now, this stands out to me because America was designed for the entrepreneur. And so you think about just the concept of being a business owner and how if you write off your expenses and have an LLC to protect your asset, well, you can really save a lot of money when it comes to filing taxes at the end of the year. That's just one concept. Or your ability to really you can almost be like a sole provider of a community, especially if you have a resource that is really valuable. And so you see where, like in Pittsburgh, for example, there's a big steel industry, or in Florida, there's a big service industry. So based on the resources that are accessible to you, there is a massive demand within a specific industry, in which if you start a business in a region in which there is an industry in high demand, there could be a ton of opportunity for you because that industry will literally drive the local economy. So I say that to say that if the entrepreneur has a lot of power and influence in their respective community, however, we have a lot of people that are going to school and getting degrees to then basically get jobs, then what we're doing is we're relying on the foundational principles of the system to provide for us, as opposed to empowering ourselves and trying to provide for ourselves independently. So when we think about this concept of the American dream, it's like they present it to you and you know it's there, but it's almost like it's hiding in plain sight. And so you have to go and find it. So now, when we think about where we're at from a government standpoint, and when you think about politics and the fundamentals of the parties, when we think about Republican, well, it's republic. And so it's almost like the privatization of this concept in which, well, government's going to regulate all of this. Well, no, we are going to do this our way because we have our own money and we are willing to work hard enough to do it. And so we are going to produce. And if we do that, there's going to be a trickle down effect in which other people can now follow. However, yes, America is driven by, entrepreneurship and the potential for opportunity. However, not everybody has the same work ethic or desire. And so if you never had much and then you get a little bit of success, well, that success feels good. So why are you going to want more? And that's when I think the system really hurts you, because there's almost like this illusion of success in which I have a roof over my head, a car that works, and a girlfriend that loves me. I did it. But you didn't. You didn't do it. Or did you do it? Now, who's to say this, that, and the third? Because now those are almost like the standardized things, and you might feel satisfied. But when you have a bunch of bills looming over you, and you're one argument away from losing with your manager who you hate, from losing your job. And now if you lose your job, you can't make your car payment and you can't pay your rent anymore. Is that actual freedom? But this is a free country, right? I think that a lot of these concepts get lost in the sauce. Now, I don't want to dive into that anymore. I think the listeners here get the point. But when we think about the concept of the liberties that we have and how much value there is in being an entrepreneur, that clearly isn't for everybody. And this is where I think we get lost in the sauce. Because now, if we're not going to take control of our lives or decide this is where I'm going to allocate all my attention, well, you better believe someone's going to have a plan in place to have you work for them or tell you what it is that you're going to do. Now, do you trust the source of that higher governing body to tell you what it is that you're going to do? Do you think that your boss has what's in the best interest for you in their mind all the time? You think that they're coming up with business models and concepts, so as opposed to production, how can I pay my employees? No. Probably not. Now, if you have a lot of value and you have a skill set, you better believe that talented people are highly coveted. And now that changes a little bit, but you can't just exist and think things are going to happen. And so where I think we get lost in this concept of the American dream is like equal opportunity, yes. However, the outcome is not going to be fixed. And so inevitably, there are winners and losers. And my podcast is obviously called Win Daily, and you promote a winning mindset. But a winning mindset is only relative to what it is that you are trying to achieve. So there's no universal way of winning because it's just you versus you. But understanding that the construct in which America is designed, losing to me is not having control of your own destiny, in which where you find yourself in 5, 10, 15, 20 years is totally out of your hands. Now that's a scary place. Now, why this matters to me, and I wanted to make this episode fairly quick, and I wanted to get a little bit away from the news. Why? Well, for one, because I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I've been so embedded in my company and large meetings between some partnerships that I'm totally out of touch right now with what's going on in the world. So I really had to dive back in as I wanted to talk to my audience on some of these concepts as to why I chose this path and how this path of empowerment is really the concept in which this country was designed on. And how, yes, we, the people, still have the power. And I'm just here to let you know what the nature of that power is. So what that is exactly is using your voice. And using your voice is based on what it is that you desire and what is accessible. So it starts locally. And so if you want things to change, you got to think about, well, what's going on in my city? What agenda are they on? Like, I know right now, Tampa is growing rapidly. They want tech companies here. They are on this agenda that by 2030, we're driven by renewable energy. A lot of things are just accelerating here where a lot of people are moving here. And this is going to be one of those cities that is at the forefront of this new America. And so when I go to city council meetings, as I'm a business owner in the city, I just know where they're going to be building a large parking lot, where they're going to be building a parking garage, or how that parking garage is going to impact the owner of the commercial property that has 5 businesses over there and where people are going to find parking. So that business owner might be affected and might say, yeah, I want that parking lot. But what if they want to put a fire department station right in that same area? Well, now what? Well, how does that impact you? And then how does that impact your property? Because now your property value might go up. So do you want, that parking garage now is going to be more tourism, or do you want that fire department? Just things to think about. So as I talk about the value of your voice, what stands out to me is news and how you consume information to understand what's going on in the world around you so that you can position yourself to move correctly in alignment with whatever it is that you are trying to achieve. So your media consumption, what we need to think about is, what are we watching on the television? And now more so than ever, our news stations are incredibly polarized. And as someone that is, right in the center of almost everything, really almost being the gap, the proverbial bridge of understanding all kinds of people, I think CNN is absolute bullshit. And there is clearly an agenda in place, whether it be through leveraging Dr. Fauci's voice as a doctor and just a highly, highly accomplished scientist, if you will, that we always say, trust the research, trust the research. Well, there's an element of human error with doctors as well. And for whatever the reason, in America, we think that if someone is a billionaire or they have doctor to their name, that they have the answers. So whether it be Bill Gates or Dr. Fauci, when you hear saying we need to pump vaccines in arms, that's a little unsettling. And the censorship, where there's almost no rationale or objectivity in anything that they're saying, and how quickly they are to, pull the plug and quote unquote cancel someone, to the point where CNN really boomed through just the Trump presidency and just making an example of his behavior, as opposed to really informing the people and clearly taking a side in who they support and getting further away from the truth and just pushing their side. Whereas right now, and just analyzing the production of television, when you hear the people on Fox talk, they appear to be backed by, reason. However, it's just so corporate, and I think that the people are just no longer trusting it. You see these people button down in suits and ties, and it's almost like I've said it before and I'll say it again, the boy that cried wolf. And so, like, you're hearing it, and it makes sense, but, like, a lot of the things that you push and a lot of the corporate greed and the wealth gap, well, a lot of the things you support is how we got here in the first place. And so when we're telling the people to pick a side, well, where CNN is just all the way extreme over here, Fox is like little too late. I think that the average person, between the ages of 16 and 30 has nothing to relate to with Fox whatsoever. So they're sort of out of the picture. And then you look at Disney and really their woke culture, because they have doubled down on their stance, whether it be their support with the NBA, where there are guys like Clay Travis and Outkick who is constantly calling out ESPN, and even some of their anchors who have been with them from the jump through thick and thin, and appear to be pushing their agenda. They make one move and ESPN just kicks them right out the door. ESPN was once the worldwide leader in sports, and they have some youth and they are shifting the game a little bit. However, I think with concepts like YouTube and just the podcast platform, we're going to see new personalities and new creatives intercept the distribution of sports broadcasting, where the people can hear their voice with things like swearing and a lot more swagger on the broadcast. And so when we look at the way the world's changing and where you can be heard and where you can see people in power who share similar beliefs as really just the majority of people, the Disneys, the Foxes, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, I think we're just sick of all of it. That, in conjunction with just the system and these politicians, sooner rather than later, people will know. And as these things begin to come undone, just look around the world around you and understand that at the end of the day, none of these things matter. And there are people in different pockets of the country that live their world with their family. They do what they love. Life is tough, but they maintain. And I think a lot of people kind of share that. You just need to find yourself to be around the people who love you and you love, and you do something that you like, and life is worth living, and you quickly find out that none of those things matter. But in the meantime, when you do consume news and you do want to figure out what's going on, as a member of this society, you are entitled to know the truth, and I believe you shouldn't settle for anything less. But as of right now, until further notice, the American dream does exist, but it's only going to come to those who seek the resources to find it and capitalize it. In the story that I'm trying to paint, I'm trying to embody just that. That's all I got, giving you a little bit of a different vibe today, but I think that it's something you can feel. Coach Wilson checking out. Win the day.